Dr. Marisol Bangu, Attorney Sapital, I'm sorry, I goofed that. Sapitala, Dr. Ken Carbonell, and Mrs. Regular. I would also like to welcome the judges. Again, Mrs. Regular, Arthur Cortez Jr., and Mrs. Arlene Bandico. I would like to also welcome each and every one of you, and especially our guests, the contestants. We have a very daunting subject to talk about today. What can I do to make a difference in our country? It's full of complexities, but at the same time quite simple. I assure you that each and every one of you will make a difference to this country. How and how much depends on the choices you make when you come upon the crossroads of your life. I want to give you an example of a person that I believe made a difference in this country, and our previous speaker already gave some insights into this, but let me give it to you in a little different fashion. It is a story about a young man who would leave his birthplace, a small town, for fame and fortune in a big city. And the backdrop is the turn of the century. Not this last turn of the century, but the previous one, going from the 1800s to the 1900s. And I describe this because those of you who are students of history will remember that this was around the time of the Spanish-American War. And the Spanish-American War took place around, I believe it was 1898. So shortly thereafter, the Americans controlled the Philippines. But before that, we were a colony for over 300 years, a colony of Spain. Every time I think about 300 years, I am in awe. It's unbelievable how long 300 years can be under the control of the Spanish government. You young ladies and gentlemen in front here, I believe you have to be about 15 years old, give or take 2 years. Am I correct? Something like that. If you think about your grandparents are probably, let me guess, 50, 55, 70 years old. So that's 3 generations that didn't even come up to 100 years. And this country was occupied 300 years. So at the very least, there were 10 generations. You can count back 10 generations before you even get back to your ancestors that were ruled by the Spanish government. That happened to be something like 7 greats before your own grandparents. I digress a little bit, but let me go back to the story about this young man. This young man wanted to go to the big city during this time, and there were 2 very big obstacles he had to overcome. The first one is that he came from very humble financial beginnings. And the second one was he had very limited educational background. But he did persevere. He went to the big city, worked as household help, and at the same time was able to continue his education. The result of that was, as said previously, he was chosen with 102 other Filipinos to go to the United States, learn English, and come back and teach it to the Filipinos, because now the Philippines were a territory of the United States. For me, and he happens to be my grandfather, this is just one person who made a difference to the country. But as I proposed earlier, each and every one of you will be making a difference to this country. And as I said, how and how much will be dependent upon the decisions you make as you go through your life. In closing, I want to thank again everybody for inviting me to this, and I was remiss in singling out the matriarch of the Carbonell family, Attorney Kathleen Carbonell. Maraming salamat.